And you'll get a chef's kiss, and you'll get a chef's kiss, and you'll get a chef's kiss.
What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is JemilaBeReadin, because I do be reading. And it's been a hot second since I last sat down and filmed something. Probably like 2.5 weeks. Finals have been kicking my ass, but I'm done now. And I'm very excited to be done and getting back into filming. I do have a video that I pre-recorded from before finals started. That's probably going to go up before these next set of videos, which I'm hoping will be out the last week of December. But today is Monday, December 21st. So this video is going to be the start of my best and worst series of the year. Today we're talking about the best books of 2020. I'm very excited. I read a lot of good books this year, and I also had a lot of just middle of the road books. There is one honorable mention that I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. So I'm not going to be putting this in any sort of ranking. It's going to just be in chronological order of when I read them. I already had a hard enough time picking out these books, and I cannot put them in any sort of ranking order because I love them all and I just want to gush about them. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about is Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. If you follow me on Instagram, which why aren't you? Go follow me, JemilaBeReadin. I have Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. I read this in March, I think, and it was one of the Pros Before Bros book club pick. I honestly didn't have any expectations going into this book. To be quite honest, I didn't even think I was going to like it that much. At this point, I was new to the book club. I was new to pursuing reading again as a hobby, as a fun thing to do. So I didn't really know how my reading taste had changed at that point. So I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that I loved this book. It was so good. Honestly, I'm in awe of Yaa Gyasi's writing and her ability to fit, 300 years and generations into a 300-page book. Each chapter is its own perspective, and it's honestly just ridiculous how amazing and well done it is. If you don't know, Homegoing is about two sisters, two half-sisters. They don't know anything about each other in Ghana. One ends up getting married to colonizer and slave trader, a white British man, and the other one ends up getting sold into the transatlantic slave trade and gets forcibly sent to what is now the United States. And then it just kind of follows how their paths have diverged, and each chapter, like I mentioned, is a new POV. It's the descendant or child of the previous perspective. So it's honestly so masterfully done. It is so sad and emotional and impactful. I honestly think this book should be required reading for high schools or something like that. This is definitely something that I'm going to revisit a bunch of times. I already want to reread it. Just phenomenal. Get your hands on this one. Go to your library or something and read this if you haven't already. So the next book that I have here is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. If you know me, you know that N.K. Jemisin is one of my favorite authors, so this probably isn't a surprise. This is a book that came out this year, in April or May. Originally read it from my library and then immediately had to get my hands on a copy of it because I loved it so much. But this is a strange book. It is an urban fantasy, and it follows I feel like I've explained this before, maybe. So cities have souls. And they, at a certain point, once the city has been around for a long time, it's really developed its culture and personality. It gets birthed. And so New York City is going through the birthing process at the start of this book. And when a city goes through the birthing process, it has an avatar to help guide it through the process so it's successful. So there's an avatar who's trying to help New York go through its birthing process. It is mostly successful, but things get a little strange. And also, there's just not one avatar. There's, in fact, 5 because of the 5 boroughs of New York. And so it's really it's really difficult to explain. I'm not going to say any more than that because honestly, going into this not knowing much, I liked that better. This is multi-POV, has a wide cast of characters, diverse. You have different ages, different ethnicities, different gender identities. It's just so good. And, you know, I know there's a lot of people who have had a little bit of issues with this because they felt like they couldn't truly get into this book because they weren't familiar with New York culture. And I guess I have been to New York, but only for a few days, so I wouldn't say that I'm like super familiar with New York or New York City, but I just feel like, I guess because New York City is so prevalent in media, I kind of have a sense of it. But I don't know, personally, I don't think you need to be super familiar with like New York City and the different boroughs to enjoy this book. But that's just my personal opinion. That may not be the case for you, but I still highly recommend this book. I love N.K. Jemisin. There's no surprise there. I just love this one a lot. So next up, I have Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This is a classic. I read this in the summer. And once again, I didn't really have a lot of expectations going into this one. I am not a big classics reader, any sort of classics, and yeah, I just didn't know. I mean, I've owned this book. I got it as a gift when I graduated high school, and I've just been carrying it along with me through different moves, hoping that I would eventually get to it. So I thought, you know what, this summer I'm reading it. So I read it. I listened to the audiobook, which is so well done, and read along and took notes. As you can see, I have a lot of tabs here. So this story follows our main character, Jamie Crawford, and it's just kind of following her life from when she's 16 years old all the way up to when she's like in her 40s. She goes through different husbands and lovers and just kind of following her life and following her as she's growing into herself, finding out who she is, especially later in life. And yeah, it's so good. I know, I mean, what am I to say? Everyone knows how good this is. It's been around for a very long time. I made the mistake of looking up 1-star reviews for this. I don't know why, but so many of it was just so fucking racist about how this is written in like Southern Black vernacular from like the 1930s. And I'll admit it does make it a little bit difficult to read, but really like I think it adds to the story, especially if you listen to the audiobook. It's narrated by Ruby Dee, and it's just so like warm and comforting. Like I would just like lay in bed reading this book with my headphones in, listening to it, and it just felt very comforting to read. A lot of people I saw also took issue with how this book wasn't particularly feminist, which, I mean, it's the 1930s. It's also a Black woman. This book honestly does explore a lot of like misogynoir and the misogyny that Black women face, especially within their own community, in addition to all the racism that's going on around them. There are certain parts where I'm just like, girl, that ain't it. Like, I feel like you could like really grow here, but it is what it is, you know? I don't really know how to explain it. I think she's still really, Janie really like came to at the end and like really discovered herself and like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know what I'm saying now, but I really enjoyed this book. This is something, again, all of these books that I'm talking about is something that I want to revisit, but I really like this, and I really want to check out Zora Neale Hurston's other works as well. So, okay, next up, Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. I read this book also in the summer, and this was so good. This was such a fascinating read. It has dual POV. One of them is Amira, who is in her mid-20s. She is a babysitter for the other POV character, Alex Chamberlain, who is in her 30s. She is a very well-off white woman. This is taking place in Philadelphia also, I think. And Amira is black. She's the babysitter for this family slash nanny type of situation. One night, she is called to come look after one of the kids in the middle of the night because the family's dealing with some sort of emergency. So Amira takes the 2-year-old Briar to the grocery store. She's dressed up in club attire because she literally just came from the club because it's like a Friday night or something like that. So they're at the grocery store just like wandering around until it's time to bring Briar back. And a lady accuses Amira of stealing this child. It's like security involved and everything, and it becomes this whole debacle. And so really what this book is doing is looking at performative wokeness, performative allyship. Alex is a wild ride. Her point of views were so freaking weird and wild to read. She was really going down a path. You know what I'm saying? It was so wild. And Amira too. I could really identify with her at certain points as someone who's also in my mid-20s trying to figure what the fuck life is doing. Who knows what's going on. She's really struggling because she's about to get kicked off of her parents' insurance. She's trying to figure out what kind of career she wants to be in. And I was just like, relatable. I feel it. But there were parts where she dismissed a lot of weird instances happening, and I just thought that was so strange but also really fascinating to read. She made a lot of choices that I don't think I would have made in that situation. So in that way it was like a really interesting character study. And yeah, so again, performative allyship, one in the form of Alex, who has the right intentions, I guess you could say, but it's really coming across very poorly. And then you also have it in the form of Amira's boyfriend that she starts dating in this book, who is just very much fetishizing black women and being with women of color. And so all of it was just wild. This was wild. I was literally sitting here going, wow, this is wild. Like, audibly reacting to this book. I have a lot of tabs here. I don't know. This is great. This is something I keep saying that I want to reread these. Obviously, I like these books. But anyways, definitely check this out, especially if you are a white or non-black person. I think this is a really good book for you. All right, so next up I have The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. I love this book so much. I really do. I instantly was just like, whatever Micaiah Johnson puts out, I'm there. Even though this is the debut, I am there. I'm in it to win it. Okay. This is a speculative fiction, sci-fi, kind of post-apocalyptic story that follows our main character, Kara. And so in this world, there are different Earths. There are different, I guess you could say, like parallel universes. And on Earth 1, let's say, where Kara lives, she is a traverser. And so this company that she works for has figured out technology so that you could travel to other Earths, other universes. But here's the catch. You have to be dead on that universe in order to travel there. Otherwise, you'll instantly die. So Kara is a traverser, and she's a really good one because she is dead on a lot of universes. I think she's only alive in 6 of the like 380-ish known universes to this company. And often the traversers in this world are people who come from poverty, who are marginalized and disenfranchised because it's just probably likely that, you know, life got to them and they're dead in these other universes. So really, I guess the story starts when she finds out that one of her doppelgangers in the Earth that she knows that she's alive in dies under mysterious circumstances. So she goes and tries to figure that out, and there's this whole like conspiracy and interesting things that are happening. But I really loved this book. I really enjoyed how it explored classism. I really like how it explored just like humanity. What does it mean to be human? How we all just go through life, and how, you know, all of that stuff. I'm trying to be like more concise with this review, but and why I like this book, but it hit, okay? It really hit. I don't have tabs. It's actually funny because I got this from the library when I first read it, and I had a bunch of tabs in there, and I accidentally forgot to remove the tabs from the library book before I returned it. So that's sad because I also wanted to like write down like quotes and stuff, but alas, I guess I just have to reread it. Am I right? Anyways, this is great. I really enjoyed it, and there's also a sapphic romance, so also great. By the way, a lot of these books kind of have trigger warnings, so I'll link all of the trigger and content warnings that I can find down in the description below if you want to check that out. I want to be better about doing that, so yes, this is for me to remind myself to do that once I'm editing this video. But highly, highly love this book. Highly recommend it. Go check it out. It's amazing. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, next up. Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. I absolutely loved it. This follows our two main characters, Dani and Zephyr. Dani is a PhD student and like professor also at this university, and Zephyr is a security guard that works at the building that she works at. So they kind of have like this acquaintance kind of friendship going on, and one day she gets trapped in an elevator and he comes and saves her in this like dramatic fashion, and it gets posted on social media and on the news. So they kind of engage in this fake dating situation, and I mean, you can probably imagine what goes on. It's so cute. It was just so cute, and I really loved the chemistry between Dani and Zaf. And I just really liked how this explored mental health, especially for men, because Zaf suffers from anxiety and he has a lot of trauma in his life. And I liked that it openly explored that. I just feel like the heavier topics that were mentioned in this book were handled well and with care. And I thought it did a good job of exploring it. You know, obviously the central focus is the romance, but it does a good job of like really fleshing out these characters and who they are and how they relate to each other. So that's what I really enjoyed. They're really cute. I love this. I also really loved Chloe Brown, but I think I like this one better. I'm also very excited for Act Your Age, Eve Brown, which is coming out next year. So, Legendborn. If you've been following me for a while, you know how much of a banger this is, how much I love it. Oh my god, this is like, there's so many really awesome, like, diverse books coming out for young readers, and it's just so amazing. And just like reading books like this just make me so excited for all of the like kids who get to read it. And it makes me also a little bit sad because I wish these books were around when I was growing up, but nevertheless, I absolutely adore this. This is an urban fantasy young adult novel by Tracy Deonn, obviously. Follows our main character, Bree, who is dealing with grief surrounding her mother who recently passed away. And so she ends up getting into this like early college type of program at UC Chapel Hill, some sort of college in one of the Carolinas. I think it's North Carolina. And so she goes to this, but something weird happens. There's some demons, if you will, some weird monsters around. And she witnesses a demon attack and also witnesses some students from this school fighting this monster. So she's like, what the heck's going on here? So she ends up joining this group called the Legendborn. They're like a secret society on campus. She also realizes that there may be a connection to her mother's death here. So she infiltrates so that she can kind of investigate what's going on. She gets mixed up with this whole cast of characters, and it's great. You know, what can I say besides it's great? It's so good. It really explores grief in a very like thoughtful and meaningful way. And also racism. The school that she goes to is a predominantly white institution. She's a black girl. It's also in the South, and like this particular secret society that she gets involved with is very much an old white boys club type of situation. So she's dealing with a lot of like microaggressions and just open hostility as well. And I think it does a really good job of handling that dynamic. And also delves deep into like just ancestral magic and ancestral history. This is great. It's lovely. It's like the best of the YA goodness and more. It's so good. Go check this out. This has been getting a lot of hype, and it's so deserved because it's freaking amazing. And also just this cover is so beautiful. Am I right or am I right? You know what I'm saying? Next up, I have Elatsoe by Darcie Little Badger. This is another YA kind of urban fantasy. And, oh man, I feel like I'm just gushing about all these books, but that's the point, right? These are my favorite books of the year. I loved this book so much as well. This follows our main character, Elatsoe, also known as Ellie to her family and friends. And she is a ghost raiser. And this is a practice that's been handed down from generations of her Lipan Apache family. And so the setting of this world is kind of like an alternate US where there's like magic and lore, different myths and stuff like are real. So there's some like indigenous based magic that's real. There's also like vampires and other sorts of Europeanish type of magic and monsters and stuff like that. It's kind of all mixed together. And it's very much out in the open. Everyone knows about this. It's not particularly strange. So the story really starts when Ellie's cousin is killed. And so she knows who this murderer is. So she and her family end up going to the town where her cousin lives to sort of investigate and figure out why this happened and how to implicate this person and get justice for her cousin's murder. This was just such a refreshing read. One, because there was just no romance involved in this book. Ellie's in fact asexual and it's handled very well. It's just there and it's a part of who she is and no one has any issue with it, which is really great. And two, it just like feels very young, but not in a bad way. At least not for me anyway. I feel like there's been a lot of aging up of YA. You know, there's some YA that just feels kind of a little bit older. And a lot of this just felt so youthful. And it made me think of like how I was when I was 17, like the same age, and how she was interacting with her friends. I was just like, all these silly, dumb jokes that I also would have with my friends, and I still do. I don't know. It just felt more realistic, even though I've heard a lot of people say this feels very young, and it does, but I just feel like that's because a lot of YA feels a lot older than maybe teenagers would act, you know? So, but anyway, I also really liked her relationship with her family and other elders around. She was not belittled. She was believed when she said she knew who the murderer was of her cousin. And there's always like adults present when things are happening. I don't know. It just felt really nice. It was so refreshing. I talk about this a lot better in like the wrap up for this video, so I'll link that above. But it was just so good. And the mystery was really good. The ending twist was kind of wild, even though like now looking back after having read it, like all the clues were there. I don't know. This was just great. And if there's any more books about Elatsoe and her adventures, I'm in there. If they make a TV show, I'm in there. Like, I'm just in there, okay? I'm in there. And last of the physical books that I have here is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is actually a book that I just finished last week or maybe a few days ago. It's pretty recent. I wasn't even quite sure if this was going to make it into my top books of the year, but I finished reading it and I sat with it for a while and I had to give it 5 stars because it was just so impactful. So this book takes place over multiple generations, but it first starts off in the early 1900s Korea, and it starts off with Sunja, who ends up getting pregnant out of wedlock, and she ends up rejecting the proposal from the man who impregnated her to be his mistress because he is already married and so he can't marry her. So she rejects his proposal and she ends up accepting a marriage offer from a traveling like Catholic minister who's coming by the boarding house that she is at. And so she ends up marrying him and going to Japan. And at this time also it's set during Japanese occupation of Korea. So she goes to Japan with him, and then it kind of just starts this whole story. I'm not going to go too into it because the whole point is that it's like a multi-generational story, but that's how it kind of starts off. and it follows Sunja and her descendants, as well as like other people who are like around in this family. And it's so good, honestly. Again, multi-generational stories are just so impressive to me. Like this and Homegoing, I really don't understand how you're able to like balance all of this. I will say there were parts in here kind of in the middle that like dragged just a little bit, but for the most part it was really well done. And the themes that are explored, one of the phrases that is really prevalent in this book is "it's a woman's lot to suffer," and that phrase has just really stayed with me, and I can't stop thinking about it because man, did the women suffer in this book. And it was just so good, especially like from the historical aspect too. Min Jin Lee is chronicling basically a century's worth of history during Japanese occupation of Korea, and just showing what it's like for Koreans living in Japan. And it was just it's so good, and I learned a lot. Also, I did know about Japanese colonization of Korea, but this did a really good job of putting a lot of it into perspective. Just really well done, and I really like this. Multi-generational stories are really becoming a favorite of mine, so I highly recommend this. It's so good. Okay, so the next books I don't have a physical copy of, but I won't take too much time talking about them. The first is the Poppy Wars series. I mean, I've talked extensively about them on this channel. I really, really liked it. I'll go ahead and link I have like a dedicated review for the Poppy War, and then I'll link the 2 wrap-up videos where I talked about Dragon Republic and the Burning God. But it was so fantastic. It's such a good series, such a good fantasy series, just such a good series in general. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about are novellas. One is The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Lavelle. I read this for my Scaredy Cat Takes on Horror series. I'll have that linked below as well. I talked more in depth about it. It was really good. I don't know what to say. It's so weird, and I really just like how weird it got, and I love how speculative it was. I loved how it tackled themes of racism, and just it was so good. And I loved just like the weird, unsettling feeling that you got reading it. And the other novella is Ring Shout, which, again, another one that I just recently read within the last few weeks. And that's by P. Djeli Clark. And, it's so good. It follows this trio of monster hunters. And the monsters are called the Ku Kluxes, and they're born out of hate. And it's just so good. I love the writing. I loved how all of the characters like shined in this story. It's so short, like it's only like 130 pages, or maybe a little bit more than that, but no more than 200 pages, and it really made an impact. It like punched me in the face. It was so good. And yeah, I'll talk more about that in my wrap-up video. I'm still thinking about it, but it was very good, and I just wanted to mention it here. And that is all of the books that I have. That was a lie. Editing Jamila here. I forgot to talk about my honorable mention, which was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. It is a young adult contemporary written in verse, and it follows these 2 half-sisters as they deal with the recent death of their father and just dealing with their lives and all of these things. It's really good. The only reason why it didn't make it onto this list was because I read it during a really weird time. I was just like all over the place emotionally, so I feel like I didn't really take in the book as well as I wanted to, but I gave it 5 stars and I really did like it. But yeah, anyway, back to the video. You know, it was a pretty impressive reading year for me. I read a lot, which is very surprising because I really have not been reading much within the last decade. So I'm excited for 2021, and I'm excited to see what good books I will be reading. I'll have my socials linked down below. Let me know what your favorite reads were of this year. Have you read any of the books that I talked about? What are your thoughts? Let's chat in the comments down below, and I'll check y'all in the next video.
Come true.
Bye.